Warning, everything in this video and on this channel is for educational purposes only. All content is intended for viewers 21 years of age or older. All acts are performed by professionals, and all people shown are 21 years of age or older. All acts are performed under the legal Chapter 67(8)(d) here in Nevada. Please do not attempt to recreate or reenact anything you see on this channel.
From the Stash Podcast, today we're going to be going over the vigorous, amazing process of testing genetics. What should be done beforehand, what should be done during, and is it even worth doing?
But first, we want to give a big shout out to our sponsors who support the show. This episode is brought to you by AC Infinity. Check out their Cloud Ray Gen 2 oscillating clip fan. Their next-gen clip fan has been re-engineered to provide a long-lasting motor and customizable airflow for all stages of your plant's growth cycle. It features 10 speeds and 10 dynamic wind modes to simulate outdoor airflow and links with UIS controllers for Wi-Fi app control. Click the link in the description section below so you can learn more about their Cloud Ray clip fans, and the discount code THESTASH15 works on both Amazon and their website, acinfinity.com.
Growers who are looking for that secret sauce usually are just missing something from their garden. And to help with that, we bring you the Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Stash Blend brings beneficial bacteria, silicon, seaweed, humic acid, and has enough macronutrition to help lower the dosages of your base feed too. Unleash your plant's true potential with Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Available at Growers House.
From the Stash Podcast.
From the Stash Podcast, boys.
Back at it. Let's go,
Island.
boys.
Looking like we shopped at Hot Topic. We're all a little blacked out, a little emo-y.
Looking good.
But we look good. I like the fact that we're all original brands.
Yes.
Little Stash Blend, little From the Stash, little Stone and Successful.
I almost
working.
wore that one.
You should have. We could have twinned. And if you had yours, we'd be like, oh, look, a cult.
I could have.
We're Stone, we're successful. That's what we do.
And that's what we like about
But
it.
it has me in this mood, man, of love to the genetics, of course. So Seedsman, man, if it wasn't for Seedsman, this trip would have been a headache. So big shout out to Seedsman. Discount code the Stash. You're looking for genetics or Stash Blend because it is officially available on their website. Use discount code the Stash. But the genetic conversation, we keep it going. Testing these genetics. A lot of breeders are a little loosey-goosey with testing them, and they seem to be putting a lot of genetics out. And then their process on how they do it. Do they utilize people in the community? Do they have expert processes in separate locations that they do all this stuff? Or is it a situation where they're winging it, pollen chucking, and tossing it out? I think it's a conversation we should touch on and also maybe go over some of the processes of actually testing what somebody who's putting out genetics should do, or somebody who is a tester, processes they should focus on.
Yeah, and there's really no standards, and that's one thing that can be frustrating. I actually released a video kind of just talking about the frustrations, how some of the breeders aren't on the same page when it comes to testing. So just keep a note, some of the things we say in this episode are going to be, I guess, subjective, right? These are things that we feel,
opinions.
right? Strong opinions, or ways that a lot of breeders do it. But not, we can't say that all breeders do it, because everybody kind of has their own unique perspective of how testing should be done, when it should be done, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know what? Over the last couple of weeks / months, there's been a little bit of controversy in terms of what is enough testing. Is it acceptable? Is it acceptable to use your community that's following you to test your genetics? And I think that's a great place to start. I think we should actually start with, like, why would anyone test their genetics? What's the importance of testing their genetics?
Well, when you cross A and B, you think you're going to get C, but you could get something else.
F.
You could get F.
That's the tough part.
Could get
I'm right now on D.
To flip over and become hermaphrodites, right? An undesirable trait that comes out of plants. And so it's really, there's two different types of hermaphrodites. There's stress-induced ones, which are really nanners that come out of the buds. So if you're in flowering, for example, and you give too much light, for example, you could have nanners coming out of the buds, and once those nanners come out, they're called anthers. They spread pollen all over the place. And that's very undesirable, right? Because if you got other females in that tent that are in flowering, well, then they're going to start producing seeds within their buds, right? So you've got the stress-induced, but you also have genetically induced, I guess, genetically hermaphrodites. Genetic trait where it's a hermaphrodite, where it's really pollen sacs kind of at the nodes, and they're actually pollen sacs, so not just the anthers. And that's something that I've told that you can really make it a recessive trait. So not so much dominant to where it's going to show all the time. And when I'm told that it being recessive, you can never fully get it out of the genetics. So you could breed this F1, F2, F3, really narrow things down, but occasionally you could have one of those F5s that you've stabilized so much. One of them could actually come out and produce pollen sacs. So those are the things that we want to kind of, why test? Well, we want to make sure that hermaphrodite trait isn't occurring, the one that's genetic isn't occurring dominantly. And then we also want to make sure stresses are being done in order to make sure that, hey, if there's light stress given or drought stress or too much nutrient salinity stress, that it's not producing anthers, right? And cutting the growth short, for example, because that's undesirable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we touched on it in a recent video about genetic mutations. I don't want to be smoking on pollen. I don't care. It's a no-nut November for me. I don't want that in my mouth. I think people underestimate the ability of like, oh, it's a rookie mistake. You messed up versus genetic induced or genetic related traits. I think people need to figure out stability with genetics before they launch them so we don't have to stumble on this. So I don't have to be a new grower who gets these genetics who then's like, damn, I just suck at growing. It's like, no, dude, this was from the genetics. Mm-hmm. These were shit genetics. Like, they may smoke good. I've had great ones that the flavor was amazing, looked super pretty, loaded with shitty immature seeds. It's just situations where if you don't dial this in before it goes to market, that's on the breeder. The consumer, like, that's been an argument before, of is it the breeder or is it the consumer?
And we did a whole video on it.
Yeah, and it makes you think more and more. It's like, well, shit, I'm a decent grower. I've never ran into this until I got your genetics. Like, you may have never run into it either, but dude, I'm not doing anything crazy. Mm. How did I get herms? I will say, recently I grew that garlic butter, and that one I didn't expect to have any herm issues, but damn it, it hermed on me. And I didn't pay attention to it because I didn't expect it to herm. It was only once I was trimming, and I was like, damn it, everywhere. And I found little seeds since then.
Testing is so important. I think globalization has allowed for the spread of commerce and products from one side of the globe to the other side of the globe. And if I was a breeder and I wanted to ensure that a gardener or grower of mine in Australia is going to get the exact same effects as a grower of mine in Alaska or New Zealand or South America or in the Middle East in desert regions, I want to know that this product is going to thrive. It's going to be successful. Like any project, it's like, I want to know that the project I created will stand the test of time. It will be able to handle most situations and still provide the effects that I love to those that are trying to grow it from around the world. And so, yeah, I think it's very important that a breeder does testing at home first for, like you said, for drought, for heat. There's some things that I feel like are just more prevalent than others. For example, heat stress. I feel like the majority of people that deal with a problem deal with heat as a stress or as a problem. Low humidity. I feel like that's another. Too intensive light. Yep. That's another one. Or too low.
That's a heavy one.
That's a heavy one.
Heavy one, yeah.
So it's like, I want to know that my genetics might be able to handle that.
But how can you do that if you don't utilize a community or group of people? How can you simulate 5 variables of stress tests? I mean, you've got the space. If you got a pole barn or garage, and you could have 5 tents that are separated as this one is light stress, this one is nutrient. Because if you're doing them all at once, we don't know the variable that you need to try to focus on. Or say, hey, here's a heads up. If you give somebody a heads up on it, man, I had Louis XIII OG, and the company I got it from even mentioned this one has been known to hermaphrodite, but it's such good smoke. And when I tell you this thing was full of seeds, this was like brickweed, dude. It pissed me off. Like, it was so fire. And like, I would smoke it, but there'd always be a seed you hit every single time, always. I think that's where it's their responsibility to stop that before it gets to that point. But at least being transparent helps. You know what I'm saying? Being like, hey, this genetic can happen, but it was so damn good, we want to release it to the people. Like, man, the flavor is worth it. And if you're an old school smoker, you're used to picking out stems and seeds, whatever. But when it comes to these new genetics that somehow make their way to market that fast, how did you do all this stress testing in that time? Because myself right now, I'm a year plus in, and I've only done 2 of 3. There's no chance that unless you're not growing bud for yourself, like how do you emulate environmental stress in 5 different ways in one growth cycle, and then it's released to market, and it's an F1, F2, how did all of these things occur? How are so many people breeders now? You know what I'm saying? There's got to be something more to it, and if you do that, you should just be transparent. Like, hey, we're pollen chucking. This is what we found. This is the price, or it's a tester. Like, shout out to Chad Westport. You get like a T-shirt, you get all these things to be a tester, and the price is affordable because he's like, hey, these are tester seeds, but I got to pay for them in some sense. Some may disagree with charging for testers. Some may agree, but the value that goes with it and the transparency of what it is, in my opinion, makes it totally viable and valuable to somebody. Just like the argument of not putting F1s out. Somebody might want that, and you're taking it away from them by making the breeder decision. The only variable that I see as bad is knowing your plant's susceptible to hermaphroditic traits, knowing that you have issues because you did some testing and then putting it out and not telling people.
No, geez. Yeah, unethical approach.
That's great. Or like you've only tested outside, but you're selling to indoor growers. What the hell is that?
That never happens.
No one's ever done that before.
There is only so much testing that you can do by yourself if you're a home grower, such as us, right? I mean, some of us have plant counts. So, yeah, I agree with what Pigeon says is like test yourself, but utilizing the community is also so huge. And I've relied on testers for my genetic. So for those that don't know, I have Chillout OG, which is a cross of Brisker OG and Pakistan Valley. And I started back in 2019. And now I've been working at generation. I'm on F4 now. But every single iteration of it, I have sent out to a team of testers. And I get feedback from them. You know, what are they seeing? Indoors, outdoors, hydroponic, organic,
early,
synthetic. So all these different ways, drought stress, heat stress, light stress, all that stuff. I can only do so much myself. You know, I can do the heat stress, I can do the light stress, I can do the drought stress. But what are these people who are growing outdoors, which I don't grow outdoors right now, what are they seeing? Are they seeing stability? You know, as far as when I'm talking stability in this particular case, as far as not herming at all. And so, yeah, this time around with the Chillout GF4, which is what I'm on right now, what I ended up doing is some of the folks that have got F3s, they now have F4s. And they were giving them to for free. So there's over 100 people now that have F4s that are currently testing it. Yeah, so it's way out there beyond any other testing. Like before I was sending them to 10 people, 20 people. Now there's over 100 people that have this F4 right now. Now they only have 3 each. So they have something.
To give you some data.
They're regulars, so they could get all males, but some of these people are getting all females. And so now they're feeding me this information, pictures, details, which is more than what I can do by myself. You know what I mean? I can grow up to 12 myself. Great. But I'm limited to being able to check off all the boxes. Sure, I could do all the testing inside, but it's going to take me a lot longer to release to the public. I would grow it out once, and I'd grow it again, then I'd grow it again. Then I might be comfortable with releasing to the public. But utilizing a team of testers in the community, I'm for that.
Oh, dude, majorly. I eventually, once I'm confident with what I'm doing, I'm going to absolutely do that. And what I've done for myself is I've taken my data and put it into ChatGPT, and out of the 3 times I've done it, I'm getting a mathematic equation of potential variables. And holy shit, it's been kind of accurate in the sense of I'm not doing it right. And it's letting me know I'm not doing it right. It was me trying to isolate not having the hermaphroditic trait. And now it's like I'm losing my gassy East Coast sour diesel funk and my haze funk. And it's going so much back to the sherb. I'm like, shit. So I'm losing other traits by losing other traits. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where I can only test so much. And I feel like sometimes stress testing, I was a little dumb when I started. So I'm like, let me do this at 110 degrees. Not often your tent's going to be 110 degrees. You should be optimizing that. That's a bigger issue. But it's like, I was kind of going the extremes. And that was a little too far. It needs to almost be testing of a realistic proportion in the sense of like, turn your light up to the max potential, but don't set it right on top of your plant. Yeah. That's just not realistic. The light should not be an inch away from the canopy at full blast. That's human error. That's not my issue with my genetic. You know what I'm saying? Other things like the temperature, the humidity is the same on the other side. You know, I had my stuff in the flower. Well, is it going to have bud rot? Yeah, it will. If you turn your humidity too high or like too low, is your plant going to like suffocate essentially? Again, yes. So you got to have that fine balance. Like swings was big for me. Temperature swings was my biggest focus. And that's where I started seeing the hermaphrodite traits, where it would go from 50 degrees when the lights are off to like 85, 90 degrees when the lights are on. You know, we're talking 30, 40 degree temperature differences. And I'd notice not majorly in the visible side, but when the plant would finish, I'm like, oh, cool, I got through. No, I didn't. Beans. It's just something that you learn as you're doing it. If you got a team helping you do it, somebody will do a whole different variable that you didn't even think of. I think that's the beauty of it. But getting good testers is another conversation. Some people just get the seeds and never come back.
True.
So it's tough, you know? I think unless you're somebody we're fortunate we make content, so it's almost like the holding people accountable is they're like, they don't want to piss off the people they like to watch, so they're going to try to show up and they're genuinely fans of the brand. Others are just trying to get a freebie in a forum, and they see these people need testers like, sweet, dumbass, I just took these free genetics. It's sad to see, but...
That happened to me with the F1 generation. I reached out to 15 different people, and 80% of them bailed on me, ghosted
took
me.
the genetics and
Took
ran.
the genetics and ran. And I was shocked. I was like, what the heck? And I tried to do it where I had people fill out a form with their, how long they've been growing, what way they grow, and so on, and selecting people. And even that didn't work. You know what I mean? I still it's easy to forge those things, I guess. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe they'd forged it and said that they had more growing experience than they actually did, just wanted to get free seeds. So unfortunately, we have people who aren't honest.
Well, and I think when people don't have issues.
Little do they know with an F1, the good luck.
Yeah.
You didn't get anything anyways.
Not just that, though. Sometimes people think when there's not an issue, then there's nothing to report. You know what I'm saying? If it didn't herm out, okay, we're good. Then thanks, you grew fine. It's like, no. Let me know.
I need the
know
deets.
Traits. I want to know about it. I know what you
Pictures.
did. Yeah, let me see.
Routine.
How your results were. Let me see your yield. Like basic information. I think these are things that arm you with the confidence to then release to the market. If you do it before then, you're just a hustler. You don't care, and hustling in a negative way, in my opinion. You don't care. You don't care about the impact, the results. You just want a bag. Do your thing, whatever. But I'd almost rather you do S1s than you're just randomly pollen chucking and you have no idea what the end result will be. You're just going to sell seeds. That's the most toxic thing to do, because there's good breeders then who lose all credibility because of other people. Like, I already got a GMO when it was shit. It's like, no, it was a fake one. This dude just threw things together, man. This was authentically bred properly and that's the thing I worry about with some of the Chilled OG crosses is these are newer growers, who are now breeders. And I'm like, damn, how did you... Chris ain't even released the F4s, and you got a whole line of this cross already? Like, you just got to test these things out, because what works good for you may not for the next person. It just depends on the environment and how they grow.
Yeah, and we know that there's breeders out there that don't think you should use the community to test your genetics,
which is fair.
At all.
Like that's on that,
They feel as if the onus is on the breeder. The breeder should be the one to rigorously and diligently test their genetics to ensure that the product that they are releasing is exactly what they want. I don't think that's possible. I really don't think that's possible. I think, you can try and replicate as many situations and scenarios as you can at home. And I think you should, but I don't think you can replicate all of them. And I think the biggest point to what you said, Chris, is that you certainly can't do it in a timely manner. It's going to take you years to test all. Like, how many tents do you have? Right? You got each tent.
To be at a big commercial facility with multiple chambers and stuff like that.
Every chamber is set. This is a drought chamber. This is a heat chamber. This is a light spectrum chamber. This is a feeding chamber. This is an intense training chamber. How are you going to, and you're going to do all of that on your own in one grow session?
This is why we partnered with Swank for our project. All of us one by one, it'd be tougher to do, but somebody who's already working on other genetics and working on other projects, it's easier to tap into that process and jump in. I think prime example, Chilled OG, every episode we talked about it. Shout out to Chris. We don't see a bunch of variations that you've made. We see you refining it. You're getting it better and better and better and dialing it in to the point where it'll just be called Chilled OG. We don't talk about F nothing. This is the one that you get because this is Chilled OG. That's how genetics should be, but now people are quick to market. So it's F1, S1, whatever, R1s, just to get it out there quick. But then if the grower didn't test it properly for themselves, they're going to put it in their conditions. It's summertime, temperature swings. boom, herming out. Now the breeder's a piece of shit. They're just herm bolt. It's a logical fallacy that you have, that most people have, that it's always on the breeder, but it is a double-sided thing. Buyer beware. Know what you're getting before you go and grab that. It's check to see if there's someone who does testing. Maybe ask some questions if you have direct access to the breeder. But don't be upset if you don't do any of that. You just buy based on name, and it herms out. Sorry.
Yeah. And, we're just talking about stress testing. We're not even testing for disease. We haven't mentioned testing for
Before
disease,
it goes out. Yeah,
viroids. We had a great conversation with Dr. Tasasaldi in regards to HLVD. And she opened my mind, opened my mind incredibly in regards to the problems that you can have that you don't even know you have. They could be showing signs of whatever. You think it's attributed to X, but the reality is that it has HLVD. It has a viroid. Then
and you're breeding that with 30 other.
That's it. Yeah. And then you're taking that, you're breeding it, and then you're passing it off to the next person, and they're breeding it. And this is just, it spirals out of control.
Seeds.
AIDS.
It's all in the seeds. Yep.
You're spreading AIDS. It's like it's the Rona all over again. I think people who are testing their genetics, and that's something we're working towards, is it's the smart way just to guarantee you're good. Just to know, like, all right, I did all the other stuff. Here's the last variable to ensure that when I say it's going to yield good or it's going to have these traits, it'll do that. It's like there's certain ones, like we were talking about the lemon skunk, and like my description of it was exactly your description of it. Because that's how genetics used to be bred, damn it.
Yeah.
We used to be able to get something that was exactly like what it is, and somebody who's growing in a field in Texas and be like, damn, yeah, it has similar terps.
Yeah, it's the Big Mac appeal.
Yeah, and we're not getting that anymore because, again, it's rushing to market. It's skipping testing. It's skipping refining. It's skipping dialing down your phenotypes and backbreeding and all these things that most people just don't want to do. That's why you see some of the more successful breeders oftentimes are breeders as a whole. They breed animals or lizard, any sort of thing that.
Lizard breeding.
Yes, lizard breeding.
That was a new one. I want to hear about
snakes.
This. Oh, yeah. That's very common.
GT.
Yeah. Yep.
GT breeds snakes.
Snakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's something that just gets you to understand genetics a little bit more and saying, hey, I can screw up. This may look cool and this may look cool, but this may not work. It gives you a little bit of a prerequisite to breeding botany, I think, That's why for me, it's taken me so long to have even one genetic get to the market.
Yeah.
Because I'm learning how to breed. Not just breeding bud, but I'm learning, okay, so whatever flavors I think sound good, those will just go in a blunt. They're not going to mix together in a plant. That'd be beautiful, but they're not compatible like that. The lineage of the plants are not going to grow like I want. It's going to give me a result that doesn't hit perfect. And I'm only learning that based on getting the field experience and testing it in my grow space,
You mentioned hot plate and viroid, and I think, the future is kind of what you were mentioning, is like everybody's going to be testing their genetics of hot plate and viroid before release.
Yeah,
I think, in
before
the future.
you even get it out
I
there.
already have people hit me up. They're like, is this tested for HLVD? You know what I mean? So we're going to get more and more people. As a community, as you guys become more and more aware that, hey, testing is out there for hot plate and viroid, and the impact of hot plate and viroid and how it can be transmitted through seeds, right? So, the more you guys are aware, and you guys obviously don't want it in your garden, or you're going to be talking to the breeder and say, hey, show me the testing, show me the HLVD test results. And some people are going to say, you know what, I'm not going to buy your genetics if you aren't testing for HLVD, plain and simple.
And it's not that expensive, man. If like the thing is the process is slower if you're going to grow your plant out and get it tested in that sense. But there's companies that will test your seeds too. And that's the beauty of it, is if you're serious about this as a business and not just a hustle, then do it the right way. And I think that's what separates the overnight people and the fly-by-night come and go versus the long terms. And it's the ones who are like, man, I need credibility. Like, I can't let this come out and suck and have one of my 5 projects be a hit. Like, it's got to be
embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing, man. Like, when people have said anything related to genetics I've endorsed and it doesn't go well, I'm like embarrassed.
Yeah.
Let alone ones that I've helped create. Like, holy shit. That's where the breeders need to look at it like a chef and leave their ego in the kitchen. And when it comes to customer service or dealing with the grower, let them understand, like, educate them, help them. Don't be pompous and be, you just suck at growing. It's your fault. The grower issue. It's like, dude, maybe it is, but educate them on how to perfect your genetic. That's why I respect people who will replace an issue and say, yeah, man, you had a problem. Send me a picture to prove it. I'll send you 3 more, fix it. Boom. But if the product's still shit, I don't want you sending me more herms.
Yeah.
In the same way that when you go to buy a piece of art or you go and buy a collectible, you get a certificate of authentication. Authentication. Is that the right word? Authentication or authentication?
Authentication?
Yep.
Authenticate. I don't know. Now you get me.
Now that I said it, a certificate of
Authentication.
authentication. I feel like we're missing a syllable. Anyways, to my point,
We've been consuming.
the thing is like I want to make sure that when I'm buying a Harley Davidson memorabilia piece, that it's actually from Harley Davidson. That I'm not buying something from China, Taiwan, whatever, overseas. It's counterfeit. It's the exact same thing that I think is going to happen for breeders. We already have so many people that are coming in and just chucking pollen. It is now a certificate of authentication. I thought it would roll off the tongue.
No,
better. It's authentication.
Yeah, authentication.
Certificate of authentication.
What is the F? What is authentify?
Where the
What's the word? Authenticate. So there's no F.
Authenticate. Is that a word?
Yeah, no. It's a certificate of authentication. So
we lost all credibility.
Lost right there. Had a solid episode right there, and damn, certificate of autism. So we that's what's going to differentiate the breeders that are in this for long term, for the community, for the culture, versus those that are just chucking. Because I want to know that the genetics I'm getting have been tested for all the things that we said above, and that I'm going to get a result comparable to what you just told me I should get.
Like, I want from the stash and any stash products and all this shit to always remember our faces, but from the stash and stash blend to be bigger than us, to our genetics to outlive us. And like, again, you look at Subcool, you know, it's coming back. People are talking about more, but the breeders who've passed, the genetics pass with them. And I really feel like your brand and your credibility and authenticity can outlast you as the person. That energy never dies, even with the person. You put out good product, people are going to keep it. Someone's going to breed that project into another one, and another one. It's like forever lives on. Your art is forever because of it. Without having legitimacy, one blunder, and people are going to burn all your crop. It's done. I feel like that's where it's not worth it. The $100 10-pack is not worth it for me. I would rather just not make anything and just endorse other people's seeds from seedsmen. I think you've got a lot of opportunity to do so much more breeding in this day and age with the science, with AI helping, with so many genetics available, with so much information on the internet. Like, there's no reason everybody isn't attempting something on their own. Does not mean it has to go to market. Breeding does not mean that you have to sell your product. It means that you should practice it. It's fun, it really is. But don't put it out there if it sucks. Maybe I'm harsh, but it's like,
I agree. Yeah, I mean, your reputation's on the line.
It's everything.
Point, so, yeah.
And more importantly than that, people are spending their hard-earned cash. Genetics are not cheap, gentlemen. And if you're going to tell me that I'm going to spend $100 on a pack of 10, it better be good. It better be exactly what you told me it should be. I don't want disease. I don't want viroids. I don't want nothing. I want exactly what I paid for.
Imagine paying $100 to disease your garden, to infect your garden.
Right. Imagine if you went to the grocery store to buy chicken and it was all spoiled.
Salmonella immediately.
You're going to want your money back.
Yeah.
You're going to get sick. And I think the same can be said
There's
about
consumer protection for shit like that. There's not in the wild west of growing.
So we've tested against disease. We've tested for viroids. We've tested for stress. One thing I think is important that we need to touch on is testing your bud, man. You know, we've got a project coming up here with Swank, and we're doing some tests.
It may already be out when you're watching this. Just
doing
depends.
sniff tests, making sure that it hits the nose on all the right flavors. I'm hoping that when I test it, it's going to hit me in the face like a jackhammer. Mm-hmm. It's like, I want to know that the flower, the time, effort, energy that I put in, the blood, sweat, and tears that I put in is giving me that experience that I put so much time in for. So
that's what the breeders should be doing. You're like, it's weird how many breeders I know who don't grow. Like, they never have flower. They don't grow. They just breed. And I'm like, what? How do you try the product? Are you not growing anything out? You just got a bunch of seeded plants? Where's the bud, brother?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like building a car and not taking it for a test drive.
They never drive it. No one's driving it. And they're like, man,
do you know the wheels won't fall off?
Build these engines, dude. And it's like, yeah, have you started it?
No.
Have you started the vehicle? No, man.
Nope.
Love building them.
We don't do that.
Yep. No, we don't even have a street to drive. So it's like, but that's literally what it's like, man. It's like, you're a poser. You own DC shoes and you can't skateboard, dork. Like,
that was me as a kid.
You got fox gear and you never had been on a dirt bike type of shit. There's something to do with I don't want to knock the hustle, people trying to make money, but it's like, these are our people, man.
We
are those people.
I'll knock if it comes at the expense of my money.
That's what I'm saying.
My dollar,
and
right?
the community that we help represent, man, we're a part of the home grow community. So when I see people putting termine on them and they're saying, oh, that's your fault. And it's like, dude, not only are you ruining their confidence for growing, but you did this, you dirty bastard. Like, you didn't take care of your business. This is on you.
And it doesn't matter how many canoes you whittle.
No, and that's where that's where it's like, I think people don't realize the impact on lazy breeding. And if you're a lazy breeder,
it's huge.
Pollen chucking is one aspect of it. Testing is the other side. You could be a pollen chucker. I don't give a shit. You could just test that afterwards and make sure you're not sending me herms. And then, all right, I don't care what your process was. I don't care if you use a paintbrush, if you X-Acto, whatever you use. Sweet, brother. Just test it before it goes to the market.
The money's one thing too, but it's like you sit and think about it. It's a lot of this stress doesn't actually occur until in flower, late flower.
Yeah.
For a lot of this. So it's like you won't even know. You've spent 80 days through veg and flower to get to a point where it's garbage.
I know. Or like, look at Troy's case, man. You take
It's a lot of money.
3 months of
A lot of time.
pancaking a plant out, and that's your whole plant underneath your light, and then that thing herms out on you. Oh my God.
That's your livelihood
That's
at this
everything,
point,
dude.
right?
That's
right?
everything. And that's where it's bigger than just like, get some more, I'll replace them with this and that. It's like, dude, that's my time you just took from me.
Right.
You just took a half a year. My harvest per year, 0, because you sent me beans that have beans.
And then forget about if you're actually, what if you're a patient and this is your medication,
That's
your life
killing your
relies on it.
cannabinoids. Like it's been proven that if it's producing, if your plant's reproducing, it's not going to be producing as much cannabinoids. It's producing life.
It's doing other things.
It's taking that, exactly. It's malnutrition essentially in your plant. It's like and even if you're harvesting this plant at a normal time, those aren't even viable seeds. So it's not even like you got seeds. Some people are like, well, at
least I got some seeds.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Now you just have
Very
this
unstable
nasty taste in your blunts. I hate that. And I hate that for the person. It's like, on behalf of all home growers to breeders, just test the genetics. The community wants to help you. You're better off to do that than to just say no. Whether it be the community or you're doing it yourself, like, it's crazy that that's just not a norm and part of the process.
It reminds me of another thing that can be detrimental to the grow that you really should test for, in my opinion, which is resistance to powdery mildew. And this is something that I needed help with because I live in a very dry climate. I live in the desert. And I think right now it's probably about 30% relative humidity. In the wintertime, we're looking at the teens. 18, 17% relative humidity.
My tongue sticks to my mouth at night, it's a lot less than 30%.
It's so hard to really increase the humidity in the grow space to test for resistance to powdery mildew. So I have a buddy over in Massachusetts. That's where I was born and raised, right outside of Boston. And he, out there naturally, they kind of somewhat struggle with relative humidity. It's always 60 plus just naturally in that area, being close to the water and such. And he had a tent full of plants. It was Chill Out OG and then a bunch of other different genetics. And almost every single run, he's struggling with powdery mildew. Almost every single run, he's sending it over to me. What can I do? How do I get rid of it? And he had the Chill Out OG there, so I was a little bit concerned. And he was showing me pictures. He's like, dude, every plant has powdery mildew except the Chill Out OG.
When I got rid of my headbangers.
Yes, thank you for giving me that information. So I think that is something, because that's another thing that just, you can have plants, certain genetics that are they just load it up on powdery mildew versus other ones that are resistant to it.
I've noticed the same with pests in general. Ones that can sit there with damage from all sorts of different pests and still grow vigorously and good. And other
they just
ones
look
that are
great.
Yeah, and you're like, damn, I've got aphids or I've got gnats or like all these other issues. And there's another plant that's sickly as hell. It's like, it's just the strength that it has as the genetics, If you have something that's not been tested, you can't even give that data to a person to let them know, here's some things to keep an eye for. Like if you got a plant that is susceptible to powdery mildew, but it's some fire, well, it's nice to know. Let me know. And then I'll keep in mind, these are known for this, so I got to make sure I'm extra careful knowing that this is a situation. Or in an even worse situation where you have something that, let's say, it has a known issue, tobacco mosaic virus, things like that, and people are putting this out and saying it's just a mutation of the plant. It's like, you bred with that? You're literally, or systemic things, like people will argue that powdery mildew is not systemic, which I think science has proven it's not. But you'll end up giving somebody genetics that, again, are susceptible to this. So it's like you're setting them up for failure that they never had this variable in their
Systemic or hereditary?
Systemic.
Within the plant tissue.
Yeah. So it's like you can breed it out, but then it's like all of a sudden with the same genetic is having...
Some people say it is, some people say it isn't. I don't know the truth behind that one.
From what I've just read and what I've watched is people just saying it's inconclusive in terms of the data to prove that this is the case. But then others are like, oh, trust me, I've done it for 30 years, dude. It's just depends. But the point is you only have that data from testing. You can't get that from guessing. Even if you know the lineage, even if you know where the great-great-grandparents came from, it may not necessarily have a trait that comes through. It's not a dominant trait that's going to be passed down or even recessive. It's gone. You bred it out. It just depends on the breeder, I feel, what they're willing to do, the vetted process. It's just not as profitable. It cuts into your time. It cuts into your profit. It cuts into everything. But I'm a long-term person, man. I'm here for the marathon.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say that, like, regardless of whether you're doing the testing yourself or the testing with the community, I think it's fair to say that we all agree that testing is important. Testing has to be done.
Yeah.
If you plan on releasing a product to the public.
Mandatory. I don't care who you do it with, how you do it. You better do some damn testing before you decide to get in someone's freaking wallet for your seeds.
So then I guess the question comes down to how much do you test for and how much is acceptable, right? If I sell a product and I say I stress for heat to 90 and I tested for drought. So if powdery mildew showed up, if stress under training showed up, am I still on the hook for that?
It's transparency. If you say that, then the person knows, all right, this wasn't tested, like susceptible for this, but no one's ever said they've run into this issue. My studies show that it seems like the parents of this are kosher, no problems. Cool, I'll take the risk. But to just not say anything is crazy to me. To not say this has been vigorously tested through drought stress, this,
And this is why when, Chris, you released your genetics, I remember us having the conversation about whether you should release the F1s 2, 3, and 4, whether they should or should not be released. And I thought they should be released because in a way you're kind of giving the community your canvas and saying, draw a picture, but they're going to be a little less affordable or a little more affordable because they're not as worked. They're a little, I don't want to say unstable because that's not the right word, but they're less of what you refined, less refined to your personal desirabilities.
I got the same. It's crazy because my F1s, the flavor still is the same. So it's just like they already had some stability based on, I think, the genetics of what they were. But then in order for it to be what the breeder wants, that's where the extra refining comes down because the consumer, they may find something totally different that they're into. But the breeder, again, it's like my art needs to be this picture I painted. I don't want to just send you a blank canvas and the colors and be like, all right, here's what my picture was.
Right. I want to give you the Mona Lisa.
Here's the complete picture. So this is what represents me. This is what it is. And that's where testing has to come through. And then the testing will also then lead you to, okay, how am I going to continue to breed this one out? How long am I going to take? Like, does this need to go down to an F5? Do you need to work it all the way down? Or can you be content with F2s and you're good? And you're like, damn, pretty stable already. We're seeing it's got, no signs of the hermaphroditic or intersex traits. The stability of the phenotypes are pretty solid. You're not all over the board. The growth, all these variables, you don't get that unless you test. I'm not going to just guess because the parents are what they are. It's like, again, 2 colors don't always make a new color. Just what it is. Some turn into doo-doo brown.
Well, with the F2s, you mentioned, you can potentially get more characteristics than the F1s because you're tapping the grandparents. That's when you really go down like F3s, F4s and stuff is when you see some more uniformity, I guess, consistency.
Yeah,
consistency.
Yeah.
But the flavor of smoke is the main thing. Like I had some difference in the growth, but the flavor of smoke stayed the same. I think that is based on the initial breeding. When you're throwing shit against the wall, you could get a total cool new thing, but it's nothing strategically done. The growth and how it reacts to the environment, that's going to be the more refining process, I feel. It depends. Because again, there's genetics that are known for sweet all the way to nutty and gas. And it's like, well, that's a large spectrum of flavors. You're like, well, go find it. It's like,
Banger conversation, gentlemen. Banger conversation. I'm kind of curious what everyone else thinks in regards to, is it enough to test in-house before you release? Or is it imperative that you have at least a team of 15, 100, 1,000?
1,000?
1,000? What is the right amount? I'm really curious to see what are the honestly, I don't think there is a right or wrong answer.
Why I think is good. Like, why would you? What's the logic on why?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because everyone will have a different opinion. Like, well, because I want to make sure it's done this test, and you couldn't do that. You know, it just depends.
I think the more rigorous, the better. 100%. I think that's fair to say. The less variables where someone's going to get something that is not desirable, the better.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Great conversation, gentlemen.
Good stuff.
Big shout out again to Seedsman for helping us put this together, man. Helping us come out here. Discount code over behind Big P. The Stash. Make sure you guys check out all of our episodes. Much love to the members and the Patreon members. And check out the merch as well. But until next time, we'll see you guys. I'm Rob, CLtv, Mr. Grow, Pigeons 420. Stay lifted.
Peace.
Peace, guys.